concerned I would share with you before I talk about this strange scripture. One is, I see Andrew Altenbach here, former music director. Andrew, it is so good to see you. Call and we'll have lunch. And you're buying. No, great to have you here again. And Donna Ray has a surgery tomorrow. Ask you to keep Donna in your thoughts and prayers. How many of you brought your iPod today? Or let me ask this. How many of you use a cell phone? Everybody. Okay. How many of you text? Okay, I got to tell you this. Ben tells me that, and this means he can do it, that the high school kids can actually have their phone in their pocket and text without looking. How many of you, I see hands fly up on that one. Let me see. How many of you Skype? A good number of you do. All right. And of course, we all use phones. We are a society that is intricately and socially connected in ways that have never been this way before. I think that's fair enough to say. Over the last 20 years, when you look at the way we are connected through technology, it is just amazing. And yet, if you read sociological studies, you know that people in North America feel how? Disconnected. Excuse me? Isolated. Alone. That's the way we feel, even though we have all of this wonderful technology that drives some of us crazy. Okay? Now, thinking about that, I think about walking through campus, and I see all of these students walking around texting or chatting, just kind of wandering through campus. And again, sociological studies support that people feel not only in their isolation and aloneness, that as a nation we're just kind of wandering through this wilderness. It's strange. We've never been here before. We don't know how to plot the course. Well, anyway, this very, very interesting and strange scripture that I have for you today is, I think, telling of where the Israelites were as reflection over several hundred years on their past comes forth in the writing of this, and it looks very similar to our context. Very similar. For you see, at the time, what are the Israelites doing? They're wandering around through the desert, right? And so we have this little piece of Scripture here, this kernel of Scripture, and it has to do with the holiest of things. What's being talked about in the Scripture? The tabernacle. And they're carrying all of this stuff around. Now, the Kohathites are the honored group from within the Levites. These are the men, 25 to 50, that have primary responsibility. When you break camp, when the tribe is going to move, the Kohathites go to the tabernacle and they literally begin to tear it down. What happens when you touch holy things in the tabernacle? You don't. Okay? You don't touch things. You don't touch the Ark of the Covenant. You don't touch the lampstand. You don't touch the golden altar or the other altar or the table of bread, of the bread of presence. All of these things are wrapped up in leather and blue cloth, so your hands don't touch them. And then they are put together on rails so they could be carried to the next location. This is God in the midst of people. This messiness that's going on when it's time to break camp and move to another. And yet, the instructions of the Lord are very, very clear, aren't they? They're clear. Sometimes, by the way, this is an aside, but I think it's important, the table of the bread of presence is called the table of Yahweh's face. Other places that bread is used in your Old Testament Hebrew Bible. How is bread used by the Israelites, the Hebrews? Well, we know. Manna? There we go. Yeah, manna becomes the bread that shows up every morning, like dew on the ground. What happens to manna at day's end? It rots. So you're being fed once a day, and that's all you're going to be fed until tomorrow for that which you should need. We also know that the Hebrews carried around, the Israelites carried around with them these little biscuits that they used for food. But like most food, after a period of time would rot because there weren't ways to preserve the food. All that being said, when I think about bread in the Hebrew Bible, and in this context, I think about how important it is and what those people did to trust in God so they could eat. How many times you go to Kroger this week? Oh my gosh. You know, all my mileage is spent between the house and Kroger. We are a people who are spoiled. Give us this day our daily bread. And we go, what's that about? Because we have freezers and refrigerators full of stuff that cause us not to have to trust in a God that provides. Well, this table behind me, this table reminds me of the bread of presence in that tabernacle. It's not a table just of remembrance. It's a table that gives life every day. It is the presence of God. I saw a picture once, and it was a picture of a sanctuary, and behind it was this huge light. And that's the kind of table we're talking about. A table of provision that is present to God's people always. Now, like the Israelites, when you begin to break camp, there's a reason for it, right? What's happening? Well, a lot of times someone's breathing down your neck and about to attack you. So when you begin to break camp, it's pretty anxious. Let's get out of here. And I think as a congregation, to be perfectly honest, most of us feel that anxiety right now. Let's leave this place. Let's get somewhere else where we can simply relieve the anxiety. But you know, God says to us right now, sit tight. I am the bread of presence. I'm here. God in the midst of the people. God is here with us. God is at that table. And God will continue to bless you today and what you carry out of here for the rest of the week, because you're going to come back next week and be fed again. God is with us. God is in our midst. Every time I read these passages from the Hebrew Bible, I am reminded that God is so faithful. When I spend the day in a hospital with you before a surgery or in a difficult time, I remember God is so faithful. God shows up. When you've lost somebody and it hurts, God is there. And when you celebrate a birth or something going on in your family or the family of God, God is there every day. But it's every day God supplies. It's not about next month or next year. You know, I'm 59 years old. And what am I thinking about in terms of my finances? Retirement, Doris knows. She did a good job of planning. We worry about retirement. We worry about health care. We worry about all this stuff. I worry about my 529s because I've got to put Ben through college, right? Keep saving the money, brother. We are an anxious society. And we tend to isolate ourselves in our anxiety. And what does God say here? God says, you're a community of people. Hang together. I'm in your midst. I'm for you. So know that today. Know that in a critical time in the life of this particular congregation, God continues to work. You know, we're not going to fix it. We're going to press through it. We're going to be in a better place. Friends, come to the table of God. Come to that bread of presence and be fed by the Christ. Deacons, would you join us at the table?